Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today and we're talking about that very special Bethesda game. We're talking about Skyrim, of course. You see, I have a bit of a Skyrim problem over the years. It all began on the Xbox 360 when I was making rare weapon and armor guides. Slowly afterwards it carried over to the PC where I just had to tinker with mods and buy my second version of Skyrim. Then console players joined the fray of mods with Skyrim Special Edition, so of course I had to review the PlayStation 4 version of this game. Skyrim quickly made its way over to the Nintendo Switch, so naturally we had to talk about the portability factor and how that impacted Skyrim. Of course, we even played Skyrim on the Alexa. Yes, really. But now what we have in our hands is the one version that may just rule them all. One that not a lot of people are talking about, a project that Bethesda did a great job on that isn't gaining a lot of attention. We're talking about Skyrim VR. Now, it's understandable why it hasn't received much conversation. You see, VR is still a growing platform. It's not very big, and admittedly, I'm a VR noob. I just got my Oculus Rift S about a month ago, so admittedly, I'm easily impressed, but still, there's so much that is great about Skyrim that is now elevated thanks to its VR capability. We're going to get into that today. It starts off with the realistic options that are offered. You see, there's realistic sneaking, which allows you to crouch in real life to enter the sneak mode. There's realistic archery, which allows you to take your arrow, notch it on your bow, pull back, and release. And that feeling of being in control of your attacks is just unparalleled. There's realistic swimming, realistic shield grip. If you're being struck by your foe, put your shield up in front of your face and you will stop their attack. There's just a level of interactivity with Skyrim VR that a lot of VR games have, but it makes one of Skyrim's biggest flaws nowadays actually a lot better, because you see, Skyrim's gameplay was always very simple, mindless. It was more about the build rather than actually interacting with the enemies. And now when you have archery, which is life in Skyrim VR, it's beautiful. It's my favorite way to play it because granted, it's a funny mental image when I'm taking a knee in my bedroom with my VR headset on, acting like I'm Legolas in real life when I'm really just some nerd making YouTube videos. It's still such an empowering, awesome feeling to stumble upon a bandit camp and try to take them out from afar with realistic aiming and hoping that I don't miss my shot. It adds a little bit more of tension to combat because it's up to my skill to aim. It's not really just aiming with an analog stick and relying on a busted sneak build, because I'm there, I'm aiming it, I'm in the world of Skyrim. And that's what brings me to my next point. You see, I can really appreciate this architecture up close, and you can note how truly huge these dungeons are. I don't even think the video footage will do justice because you're still looking at the screen, right? It's not like you have the headset on and you're in the world. It's so different when you're in one of Skyrim's gigantic dungeons and you look up and you see the light peering through a hole and you can see just how tall these areas are. It makes you really appreciate what Bethesda has built. It's really something that I think is harder to process unless you have the headset on and you're really there, because you can appreciate the size of a dungeon from your couch, but I just think being there, actually placing yourself in the world, has such a huge impact. Now, there are two ways to move around in Skyrim like a lot of good VR games will have. There's teleportation, which prevents a lot of motion sickness. Same thing with the snap turning. You can either have full motion turning like a regular analog stick in any video game, or you can do snap turning. You can also move like you would in a normal game, but for me, I get a little queasy when I move around that way, so do part of my teleports. I know it may look a little jarring, but trust me when I say it does not impact the experience whatsoever. The world is far more immersive here, and encounters with enemies as well as NPC to talk to is way more exciting, because you see, mods have really enhanced Skyrim VR in ways that I didn't think was imaginable, but some of these mods may blow you guys away. We have Mage VR, which allows you to draw out the spells that are in Skyrim and equip them onto yourself or to use them. And I think that level of interaction is so cool because there's a whole game that is dedicated to being able to draw out your spells, and now Skyrim can do that. There's also Dragonborn Speaks Naturally, where when you have dialogue options, you can speak them and they'll actually register them. Can you get more immersive than that?
What do you need?
Mind if I ask you something?
What is it?
Let's discuss combat.
What needs work?
What are your current combat tactics?
I am trying not to start any trouble. And in battle, I am fighting Inigo style.
You can actually say your dialogue lines and put yourself truly in the world. I mean, what more could you need to immerse yourself? It's incredible. And last but certainly not least, at the top of the list is player avatar, which allows you to have full animated control of your character. You can see your body, you can see your arms. It's better than being just what you've seen in my gameplay, which is floating swords, floating shields. I don't think that really detracts from anything, but it's at least better if you see a hand around the sword, a hand around the shield. It really puts you in there a little bit more. It's one of Skyrim's flaws, but much like a lot of Bethesda Game Studio games, they are improved thanks to the excellent work of the modders, and it's truly exciting. So I have been hooked back into Skyrim, I guess at just the right time, because with all the delays happening and things not really picking up until the middle of March, I'm happy that if I'm going to get into Skyrim, it's right now when not a lot of games are coming out. I feel like I can actually get into it a little bit more. But there were just so many times I took pause in the world and just looked around and it was like, wow, man, I'm here and this world is even bigger than I could have imagined. And if you've noticed, the main point is I'm here, you're in the world, immersion. And that's what I've tried to hammer home in today's video. Skyrim VR is legit. And I know there's a lot of other excellent VR games that I have to get around to, like Asgard's Wrath was the main reason I said, okay, it's time to invest. I want a real RPG. But once I saw Skyrim for $17 on the Steam sale, I was like, yep, copped instantly. But there's also other excellent games. I really like Vader Immortal. I think it puts you in Star Wars in a really refreshing manner. There's just a level of interaction in VR that I can truly appreciate. And that's what it's all about, man. So it's starting to get there. It's starting to get better. And it may be something worth keeping your eye on. Of course, with next-gen consoles coming as well, it's hard to say it's something definitively worth looking into. But I think it's growing, and for all the right reasons. VR is getting better, and I'm happy I have a headset because it's awesome to be a part of. So that'll conclude my quick little video here today on Skyrim VR. I leave it with you, ladies and gentlemen. Have you played Skyrim VR? What do you think of this version? Is it the version that rules them all? Which is your favorite version of Skyrim? Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.